morning. We're back for the Bible study. We're going to try this again since the first time around it kept going in and out. You really only missed the introduction, so it's all good. We're going to start on page 1 of the book now to start the first lesson. I'm not sure what was happening before, but maybe this will work. All right, we're going to start in Luke chapter 9, verse 23. It says, Luke 9:23 says, "And he said to them all, if any man will come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross daily and follow me." I've told y'all this before. The Lord has really burdened my own heart about holy living. Quit doing what you do in your spiritual life just because it's what you've always done, or just because you know that it's a good thing to do. Like, quit doing it for those reasons. You should be following the Lord because it is a desire in your heart to live holy and completely for Him. Forget what everybody else thinks. Forget the fact that you grew up in a Christian home. I grew up in a Christian home my entire life. From the time that I was in my mother's womb, I was going to church. Some people don't have that testimony. Some people were saved and then they got into it and now they've been doing it maybe 5, 10, 15, 20 years. But don't do what you do for the Lord out of oh yeah, I got to go to church today because that's what I do. I don't want to enter into a church service, my devotional time, prayer time, any of it, just because it's what I do. It's not just what I do. It should be who I am. There should be a desire in me to want to live holy for the Lord. And so we have to deny a lot of things in our lives. There's a lot of flesh that comes up because that didn't get saved inside of us. And so first she's going to talk about the 2 most important decisions in your life. The first one is personal salvation. That's the first one. And if anyone is watching that does not know you're saved, that's it. That's the first thing that you have to do in your life. There is a rampant growing movement of Calvinism, even in America. It's very prevalent in Europe, where people believe that God picks, oh, you are, and maybe you're not. Who knows? I would hate to live my life that way. That is not what the Bible teaches. The Bible teaches, for whosoever shall call upon the name of the Lord shall be saved. It doesn't say that God picks me or I can't know whether I'm going to go to heaven or not. It never teaches that. And so she talks about that. She gives a very similar testimony to what my own testimony was of growing up in a Christian home. I remembered up until I was 14, my mama would tell me, well, when you were in first grade, Miss Gloria, her name is Butler now, but she led you to the Lord. I can remember my mama giving my teacher flowers after it happened. And I even remember them talking about me getting baptized. I remembered nothing else. I remembered no conviction. I remember no realizing I'm a sinner, I need to be saved. But I was one of those kids, like, I didn't cause a lot of trouble for my parents. Like, if they told me to do something, it would kill me to think that I was going to disappoint them. Like, I would cry at the thought of thinking I disappointed my daddy from the time I was very little all the way up. Like, that's just the way that it was. And so I remember my mama telling me that and then going through everything. And then we were at camp when I was 14 years old, and it was right before my daddy's cancer journey would start. And he got up in front of the camp that night. They asked him to give a testimony. At that point, we had no idea he had cancer. We just knew something was going on in his lungs. And he got up and talked about how if I die on the operating table tomorrow, the first face I'll see is the face of Jesus. And I am confident in that. And I'm so thankful for that. He went on. And in that moment, the conviction in my heart was, you don't know that for yourself. You've never really accepted the fact that you're a sinner. You've lived on the coattails of your parents. I had great parents. They were in church. They did everything. And I had rode the coattails of them all that time. And the devil had allowed me to just smooth it over that I was okay because I wasn't a bad girl. And at that moment, I realized I was a sinner and that I needed to be saved. And I got saved that night, along with 31 other friends. And it was absolutely unreal what the Lord did in that service. And I am so thankful for every part of that. And at that moment, the very next day, we found out my daddy had cancer. And it changed everything for my life growing up. And I think to myself often, how would it have been different if I had not gotten saved the night before all of that? Would I have depended on the Lord like I was supposed to? Would I have had a testimony? I wouldn't have had a testimony for the Lord through all of it because I would have been doing it all on my own. Well, she tells this whole story, and she talks about how that, being a good girl and you know how to do the whole pattern of things, but how many times, even those of us who are saved, do we know how to act and we just do it because we're in the routine of doing it? Not because I want a personal relationship with the Lord. I'm just doing it because that's what I've always done. Ouch. That is me sometimes, where I'm just going through the motions of it because it's just what I do. I don't want it to be about that. I want it to be a personal relationship with Christ. And so she tells on page 3, she starts talking about the personal relationship. Personal salvation is not the same as having a personal relationship with the Lord. It's not the same. But how many times do we think, oh, you're saved, now you have a relationship with the Lord? That is not true. There are a lot, and y'all know this from being in church for years, there are a lot of people who get saved and nothing ever goes any further. They know they're going to hell, but they never develop a relationship. They have access to that relationship, but they don't develop that relationship. It's just like in church. We all have access to one another, but we all don't always create a relationship with other people. We pick and choose who we want to have the relationships with, and we don't have a relationship with everyone. Well, we have access to God, but how many times do we not cultivate that relationship with him? We just think, well, I'm saved. I'm pretty good. I don't do a lot of bad stuff. We don't really work at having a relationship with him. Salvation is a one-time thing, but a personal relationship is not a one-time thing. We can't say, oh, I got saved. Now I have a personal relationship with the Lord, and I'm going to be okay. No. It is a daily commitment to him. She says in here at the bottom of page 3, my life was set on cruise control and I continued to go through the motions of Christianity. Remember, just like I was, she had been saved and already doing all those things. I mean, honestly, when I got saved, I didn't have to change a lot of what I was already doing. We were already going to church every time the doors were open. We were at every soul winning. I was singing in the teen choir, what else was going to every youth activity? What else was there to do? You know what I'm saying? I was already doing all those things. And so she says that. The Lord would convict me about my lack of growth and prompt me to read my Bible daily. I would make it a few days, maybe even a week, and then a day or two would go by, and the next thing I knew, I hadn't read my Bible in a week. Those bad habits that I had formed as a person acting saved were hard to break. That is my story. When it comes to reading the Bible, I struggled with that for years because I had done all the right things, and it was never a real thing for me. It has to become very real or it doesn't work. It can't just be a checklist. You have to truly enjoy your Christian life. I think it was this past Sunday, he used the word delight. Am I delighting in the fact that I get to come to church? Am I delighting in the fact that I get to read the Bible? But how many times do I'm like, oh, I'm so tired, but I've got to do this. Are any of y'all like that? Like you feel like you're a failure if you don't do it, but at the same time you're like, oh, I'm so tired. I have those moments sometimes. And so I don't want it to be that way. I want to delight in every single thing that the Lord allows me to get to do in my daily walk with him, and then in serving in this ministry. She knew that there was only one way to develop the relationship, that is fellowship with the Lord. It's just like we tell kids. I tell a lot of teenagers this. If you are living in the house with your parents, but you never talk to them, there's going to be no relationship or fellowship. I shouldn't have said relationship. There's going to be no fellowship. The relationship's always there. So with God, I always have that relationship once I get saved. But what about the fellowship? If I'm going to have a personal relationship with somebody, then I should be fellowshipping with them. I should be spending time with them. Kids these days want to go park in their room and never talk to anybody. And so we're like, let's sit down. Kids don't eat at the table anymore. That's not fellowshipping with your family. You're not going to know who your people are if you don't do that. Some of the sweetest memories I have are sitting at dinner, talking with my family, and we sit there for hours, laughing, talking about what happened throughout the day. Okay, well, I should be that way with the Lord. That kind of fellowship should be there, to where I'm talking to him, I'm telling him things. There was a long time in my life that I thought when I talked to the Lord, I had to talk very proper and it had to be a certain way. And I realized, no, he's my best friend in the whole wide world. And if I'm aggravated, I can say, Lord, I am so aggravated today. And I need you to help me get this fixed so that I can be what I need to be, because I'm going to take somebody's head off if you don't. Like, it's okay to tell the Lord those things. Because if you were sitting with your very best friend here physically on this earth, that's how you would talk with them. So we should have the freedom in our lives to tell the Lord just what we're feeling. Some days you're going to be so excited about everything in life is grand, but there are other days where you're just discouraged. Lord, I'm going through this really bad slump right now, and I don't know what it is, but could you please help me get out of it? Talk to him like that. We have to have that fellowship, but it has to be consistent and it has to be daily. You have to spend time in God's word and in prayer, and it is constantly work. And I have to be honest with y'all, just about every time we counsel with somebody who's having any major issues and you ask them, are you reading your Bible? Well, I might read a verse here or there. Some days I don't. Well, are you praying every day? Well, before I go to bed. You're not going to go anywhere with that. But let's be honest, we all fall into that slump sometimes. We're like, I'm tired. I think I'll just read the verse of the day today. Okay, that was a good verse, Lord. Thank you. I'll think about it throughout the day. And then you go on because you're so busy and you don't pray at that point. And then it's time to put your head on the pillow at night and you start, dear Lord, thank you so much for blessing me today. Thank you for my children and my family. Please help them. And you're out. How often do we do that? Because we get so busy with everything else. But honestly, our time with the Lord should be just as important as anything else we do throughout the day. It will change lives. If people could get a hold of it, it would change their lives. And it would make the bad days not nearly as difficult because they would have that fellowship with the Lord. The personal relationship is not a one-time thing. It is a daily decision. Luke 9:23 says, take up his cross daily and follow me. Every single day. She said that she developed a new habit of spending time with the Lord each day. If it's not working for you the way you're doing it, change it. I have to be honest, when I was growing up, we were taught that you should be reading certain numbers of chapters a day, chapters of the Bible a day. And so that was my discouragement because, number one, I was an English teacher, but I did not love reading. Like, sitting down reading 500-page books, like, ugh. And so to be told as a teenager, you've got to read 5 chapters a day, I was like, what? And I'm one of those, I start reading, unless I keep up with where I am, I'm like going to reread the same thing 50 times before I move to the next paragraph. And so I'd be like, it's going to take me 10 hours a day to do that. Like, I'm never going to sleep. And so what I did was, I didn't do it. Because somebody told me it had to be a certain way. It doesn't have to be a certain way. It does not. You are who God made you to be. And only you and the Lord know what works for you. We started with our children when they were younger and they first got like phones and stuff at 15. The YouVersion app. Read the verse of the day if that's not what you're doing. Now they've all developed their own different ways of doing things now, but we would encourage them, find the verse of the day. And then they would say, well, I read the whole chapter that went with that rather than just the verse of the day. If you know somebody that's struggling with that, encourage them, find one verse or read a Psalms for the day. It will change everything just to get into the habit. I think my husband has said this before. Tom Malone was sitting with a whole group of preachers and they were talking about Bible reading, devotions. Well, what do you do for yours? And it got to Tom Malone, all these other preachers that said, I read 5 chapters a day. I read 20 chapters a day, all of this. Gets to Tom Malone and he says, I read until the Lord speaks to me. Sometimes that's 1 verse. Sometimes that's 10. Sometimes it is 5 chapters. But until the Lord speaks to me. There's no set requirement in your own personal relationship with the Lord. You have to find what works for you and what is your fellowship. When we fellowship with one another, it's different with you than it is with you. Okay, well, me and the Lord, it's different with me and the Lord than it is with you and the Lord. So you figure out what is best for your personal walk with the Lord, but don't stop doing it. And make sure you're doing it every day. Don't let it be a flippant thing to just check off your list. I'm one of those people, like I want to do the checklist, and then if I miss it, that was my thing. Well, I read the 5 chapters for 5 days. Well, I can't keep up with this, and I'd miss a day. Well, I just messed up the whole year, starting January. I just messed up the whole year. My whole calendar's messed up, so just forget it. My mother would say when I was in kindergarten that I would rewrite papers like 5 times for homework because it had to be perfect. And I have one particular child that's the same way. Like it drives her nuts that she just made a line through something or scribbled it and she wants to completely rewrite it. Well, that was me. So y'all get where I'm coming from on the whole. I would mess up the whole thing, then I was done. Well, it can't be because it's a checklist or because it's my duty as a Christian to do this. It shouldn't be a duty. It should be a delight to read God's word and let him speak to me. That's how he talks to me. I'm not going to audibly hear his voice, but he speaks to me through his word. We were laughing the other night because I try to pick a Bible plan to read. So the kids are all talking about what they're reading in the Bible. And Danny says one thing, which was really funny what he said. And I was like, I'm in Chronicles right now. And I love all of the Bible, but I'll be glad when I'm out of Chronicles. Like, there's a few good verses in there, but the rest of it, I'm like, what is this even saying? Anyway, but thankfully in my reading plan, there's also some Psalms and some Ephesians and all those sorts of things. So, but I have to say to you, if you get stuck in the middle of something like that, change it if it's not working. Like, don't get bogged down and then think, well, I'm not doing this anymore because I cannot take any more of Chronicles. Don't do that. If you have to, go to the other verses. The Lord will be okay with that. You have to do what keeps you engaged in doing what you need to do to have a personal walk with him. We allow things to disrupt our fellowship with the Lord and destroy that relationship. But thank the Lord we can always go back and fix it. I used to tell teenagers all the time, God does not expect perfection, but he does expect perseverance on our part. You mess up, pick up, and start over again. Don't think, well, it's just messed up, so I can't do it anymore. No. Tell the Lord, you know what, I messed that up. I need to fix this, so help me fix it. Let's get this right. Let me do it a little different so that I can stick with it. All right. The next little section that we'll cover next week is on becoming a disciple of Christ. If you have the book, you should read through that and then start going through the reflection part. Okay? She asked in the reflection part, she asked about your own personal testimony. I think you should write it out if you have the book. Or if you don't have the book, write out your personal testimony. If you've never shared that with your family, you should. If you have children, I think you should ask them often, tell me about when you got saved. We do that a lot of times with our kids. Julia gave the testimony this summer about how she realized in the 4th grade she had not really been saved as a 3-year-old because we went around the table and my husband said, okay, Samuel, tell me how you got saved. What happened when you got saved? Danny, tell me. Emma, tell me. Mama, tell me. And she stopped and realized, I don't really know. And she got it settled then. And for ones that are saved really young, if they know that without a doubt, keep letting them repeat it so the devil does not use that young age as a way to make them think, no, I didn't really do that. If they really were saved, then keep letting them tell you that story over and over and over again. Share with your family what your personal testimony is so that they know. It will do worlds of wonder for them to hear you. And maybe you say, well, they know I'm saved. Tell them again. Tell them the details. Let them see you excited about it again. Then she talks about your relationship with the Lord. Are you best friends? Are you good friends? Are you just friends? Or are you acquaintances with the Lord? That's a lot to think about. Like when you look at that and think, okay, where am I with this? Ooh, I know where I want to be. And then she says, no matter what you've marked, there's always room for improvement. I don't care if you can mark best friend. The Lord is my best friend. I'm spending time in his word and I'm praying. I talk to him throughout the day. I seek him about everything. There are still things to improve upon. And I never want to get to the point in my life that I feel like, no, I got this. No. I every day fail him, and I want to keep that relationship right and continue to grow. And I'm excited to see what all we're going to learn in these chapters. I want to, the chapters are, this one was taking up my cross. The next one is don't panic. So that's going to be what happens when the fly of panic lands in your tea. Then there's one, get out of the boat. So I'm going to assume that's probably about when the Lord asks us to do something. Who do you say that I am? And this is when he asked Peter that. A piece of the wall, and she's going to give a visual picture of a wall and talk about being apathetic, getting offended about things, all of that. And let's just be honest, we as women are the worst about that. The men don't have as much trouble with that. I wish we didn't have that. The next one is get thee behind me, Satan. Getting comfortable, 70 times 7. That one's going to be on forgiveness. Washed by the word, preparation and prayer, and then lovest thou me. So I'm excited to get into all of these. It should be a really good study. And I hope if you're watching it online that you will get the book and stay right along with us as we go through it. I am sorry about the whatever was going on with the internet earlier. But you can go back and read the introduction. I'll probably try to go back over it a little bit more. It's going to be 2 weeks from today before we have our next one. I would like to ask all of you to please pray for our son Danny as he heads to the UK as a missionary. And so that he's leaving next Thursday, so we will not have Bible study next Thursday, but the following week. I hope you'll have a great day. Bye-bye.